my name is Amy Brown. I'm 30 years old, and the day my family chose pie recipes over my surgery was the day something inside me quietly broke. I used to think being dependable was a virtue. I had built my whole life on it, the reliable daughter, the successful sister, the one who always picked up the phone when someone else's world fell apart. My job reflected that too. I worked as a data specialist at a massive insurance firm downtown, the kind with glass walls, that made you feel exposed even in success. The pay was good, 6 figures of corner desk benefits. To most people, that sounded like freedom. But to my family, it meant I was the safety net they never had to ask permission to use. It started with a dull, persistent pain behind my right knee. At first, I blamed the long hours sitting at my desk, the endless stairs in the parking garage. But as weeks went by, the pain began to pulse like a second heartbeat tugging at me every time I stood up. Finally, one morning, I couldn't bend my leg without wincing. I went to the clinic after work. The doctor was kind, too kind. That's when you know something isn't right. Fluid buildup, he said, studying the ultrasound. We'll drain it and clean up the joint. It's a same-day procedure, but you'll need a wheelchair for a bit, no weight on the knee for 2 weeks. A wheelchair. The word hung in the air like an insult. I wasn't used to needing anyone. A week before the surgery, I texted the family group chat, Mom, Dad, and my older sister, Amanda. Hey everyone, having knee surgery next Thursday. I'll need someone to pick me up around 3 p.m. Shouldn't take long. I expected at least one reply of concern, a, you'll be okay, a, need me to drive you. But the first notification that popped up wasn't concern. Amanda. Sorry sis, I've got plans all day. Maybe Mom or Dad can. Mom responded next. Mom. Oh honey, that's my book club day. We're discussing that new Patterson novel. I can't miss it. Then an hour later, Dad's text. Dad, back's acting up again. Not safe for me to drive, sorry, kiddo. I stared at my screen for a full minute. 3 people, the people I'd loaned money to, comforted, taken care of, and not one could spare an hour. I typed, it's just a pickup. I'll be in a wheelchair. No reply. That silence felt heavier than the surgery itself. Later that night, I mentioned it to my coworker Rachel while grabbing coffee in the break room. She didn't even hesitate. Of course I'll take you, she said. You'd do the same for me, right? And she was right, I would have without even asking twice. I smiled, feeling both grateful and humiliated. Grateful that someone cared, humiliated that it wasn't my own family. The surgery day came. The doctor drained the fluid, and when I woke, my knee felt stiff, but clean, lighter somehow. Rachel was waiting, holding my discharge papers and a paper cup of water like it was the most natural thing in the world. She helped me into her SUV, folded the wheelchair into the back, and drove me home. She even helped me set up my couch with snacks, water, and my meds. When she left, I felt oddly small in my own house, the quiet kind that hums in your ears. I picked up my phone, checking for missed calls. Nothing. I opened the family chat. Mom and Amanda were deep in conversation about pie. Mom. You must try this pecan pie recipe, Amanda, or that sweet potato one I sent you earlier. I stared at it until the words blurred. I could have been dead under anesthesia and they'd still be comparing crusts. That night, I lay on the couch with my leg elevated, feeling the throb of my stitches. Painkillers dulled it, but not the ache in my chest. My home felt like a recovery ward, quiet, sterile, and lonely. The next morning, I tried to distract myself with work emails, but my head was foggy. The pain meds made my thoughts sluggish. The second day home was worse. My body wanted movement, but my leg refused. Then, on the third day, my phone buzzed. Finally, I thought, maybe someone's checking in. It was Amanda. Amanda. Hey, sis, since you're home and not working, I'm dropping the boys off for a week, taking a trip to Mexico with the girls. So excited. We'll bring them by tomorrow evening. At first, I thought it was a joke. Then I reread it and reread it again. No emojis, no laughter. She meant it. I typed back. Amanda, I just had surgery. I'm in a wheelchair. I can't take care of your kids right now. Seconds later, my phone rang. Stop being so selfish, she said the moment I answered. Her voice had that familiar sharp tone, the one that always made me feel like a bad sister for having boundaries. Selfish. I literally can't walk. It's just your knee. You'll be fine. The boys are easy. Amanda. I can't even carry a pot of soup to the kitchen. How am I supposed to pick them up from school? Figure it out. You always do. And just like that, she hung up. I called Mom. She's dropping her kids here, Mom. I can't do this. Oh, Amy, don't be difficult. Mom said, her tone sugar sweet, but edged with exhaustion. Your sister needs a vacation. She's so stressed. So am I. I just had surgery. You'll be sitting around anyway. Family helps family. The call ended with me staring at the wall, shaking. It was always the same pattern. Their needs came with urgency, mine with guilt. I looked around at my house, spotless, quiet mine. For years, I'd been the one who bailed them out, covered Amanda's rent, paid for the boys' classes, helped my parents with repairs. I told myself I was doing the right thing. But for what? That night, I opened my laptop, I pulled up my banking app. Line by line, I started going back through my transactions. Rent transfers, kindergarten payments, grocery orders, utility bills that weren't mine. I opened a new spreadsheet naming it Family Contributions. The numbers began to pile up $800 a month for Amanda's rent over 5 years. That alone was $48,000. Add school fees, soccer league, birthday gifts, emergencies, and my parents' $25,000 in small loans that never came back. When I hit the total, the number blinked at me like a warning light. $103,000. I sat back staring at the total. Over $100,000. And yet not one of them could pick me up from the hospital. The absurdity of it made me laugh, the kind of laugh that turns into something else halfway through. I opened my messages again. There it was, Amanda's text. Just confirmed my flight, Mexico, here I come. Boys can't wait to stay with Auntie Amy. My finger hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't reply. Instead, I messaged someone else, Maria, an old friend who managed a recovery spa 2 hours away. Any chance you have availability tomorrow? Need to heal somewhere quiet. Her reply came instantly. Always for you. We'll arrange medical transport at 8 a.m. I looked around my house one last time. The couch where I'd been stranded, the half-eaten soup on the counter. The silence from the people I loved most. Family helps family, Mom had said. Maybe, but only when it's convenient. Tomorrow I'd be gone. The next morning, the air in my house felt heavier, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I woke early before the transport van arrived and sat by the window in my wheelchair, staring at the faint orange glow crawling across the horizon. I should have been nervous about leaving, about recovering somewhere far from home, but I wasn't. I felt numb, detached, like I'd stepped out of my own story for a moment. At exactly 8, a van pulled up. The driver, an older man with kind eyes, helped me load my overnight bag and folded wheelchair. Heading to the spa, he asked. Yeah, I said quietly. Just need a little peace. The ride was long and quiet, the kind of silence that lets your thoughts wander to places you've been avoiding. Fields blurred past the window, golden and endless, and I thought about Amanda, her laugh, the chaos of her kids, the way she'd always managed to make her problems my emergencies. By the time the van rolled up the gravel driveway of the spa, I'd made myself a promise I wasn't going to answer her calls. Not one. Maria met me at the entrance, her smile warm and familiar. Amy. You look pale but determined. Good sign. I'm just tired of being useful, I said. She didn't ask for details, just squeezed my shoulder gently. Let's get you inside. The recovery spa was everything my family wasn't: calm, organized, nurturing, without demand. My room was soft light and polished wood with a garden view and a faint scent of lavender drifting through the air. For the first time in years, I felt the kind of quiet that didn't accuse me of being lazy. Maria handed me a folder. Your schedule: physical therapy at 10, massage at 2, aqua therapy at 4, and meals are delivered. You just rest. Rest. That word used to sound like failure. Now it sounded like survival. The next few hours passed in a kind of haze. I drifted between naps and stretches, between gentle hands, guiding my leg, and the dull ache of healing. Every so often my phone buzzed, lighting up with my sister's name. I ignored it. By evening, my body felt lighter. My mind, though, was another story. At 7:32 p.m., I caved. I turned my phone on. 42 missed calls. 39 messages. The first few were from Amanda. Where are you? You can't just ignore me. Amy, this isn't funny. I'm at your door with the boys, answer. Then one from Mom. Your sister's been waiting outside for 10 minutes. Please don't be cruel. Then another from Dad. Amanda says you locked her out. That's not how family treats each other. And finally one from Amanda that made my chest tighten. I'll leave them here, Amy. I swear I will. You can't just abandon them like this. My hands trembled as I texted back. If you leave them at my house, I'll call the police and Child Protective Services. Don't test me. Seconds later, she called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Amy, what the hell is wrong with you? She hissed. I could hear her car door slam. Kids crying faintly in the background. What's wrong with me? I told you I can't take care of them. I just had surgery. Unbelievable. You've always thought you were better than everyone. Money's made you cold. Money didn't make me cold. You did. Silence. Then the sound of her exhaling sharply. You'll regret this, she snapped and hung up. I stared at my reflection in the window. The spa lights outside glowed gold against the darkness. My phone buzzed again. More calls, more messages, more guilt. I turned it off. The next morning, Maria knocked softly. Breakfast time. You're up early? I couldn't sleep, I admitted. Thinking too much. Always. She smiled knowingly. You'll stop. Eventually. It's what quiet does, it makes the noise inside you louder until you finally face it. Her words stayed with me through the day. During therapy, I thought about every favor I'd done for my family, every time I'd said yes while my stomach twisted. I'd mistaken sacrifice for love because they'd taught me that's what good daughters do. That night, as I sat on the bed, I opened my notebook and started writing. Not texts, not messages, just truth. I wrote every time Amanda had called me selfish for saying no. Every time Mom had made me feel guilty for working hard. Every time I'd thought helping them would finally make them see me. By the time I finished, tears blurred the ink on the page. It wasn't anger I felt anymore, it was grief. For the years I'd spent being useful instead of loved. 3 days passed before I turned my phone on again. The first thing that popped up was a picture Amanda had sent her kids on my front porch holding backpacks, confused and tired. Beneath it, her message, "You did this." Then another from Mom, "You've changed Amy. You used to have a heart." I stared at those words for a long time. My chest tightened, but I didn't cry this time. Instead, I replied with one line. "No, I just stopped letting you use it." I powered my phone off again and leaned back in bed. Outside, the sound of wind moved through the garden like a whisper, soft, almost forgiving. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one running to fix things. And that stillness, that terrifying, liberating stillness, felt like the start of something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. The next morning began like peace pretending to be normal. The curtains billowed with the soft breath of a late summer wind. The air smelled faintly of lemon oil and lavender. I ate breakfast yogurt and sliced peaches at a wooden table facing the garden sunlight, flickering through the leaves like moving glass. No noise, no phones, no guilt, just quiet. It's strange how silence can make you realize how loud your life used to be. For years, I'd lived in a constant hum, texts, requests, favors, emergencies that were never mine, but always became mine. That hum was gone now, and I could finally hear my own thoughts. Maria checked in after therapy. "You're healing fast," she said, smiling as she adjusted the brace on my knee. "You must be lighter now, not just your leg." I laughed softly. "You have no idea." But that night, when the spa grew still and the lamps cast warm halos against the walls, curiosity crept back in. I picked up my phone and turned it on, half expecting an explosion of messages. There were fewer this time, but worse. "Mom, we went by your house. Alarm went off. The police called us. Embarrassing Amy. You overreacted. Dad, you scared your mother half to death. Amanda, you called the cops on your own family. You're insane." Attached to Amanda's text was a grainy screenshot from my security camera. Her standing on my porch face, twisted in outrage, her boys clutching stuffed animals. I should have felt guilt. I didn't. I felt relief. They'd finally seen what a locked door looked like when I was the one behind it. I typed a single reply. "You told me family helps family. This is me helping you grow up." Then I powered off the phone again and placed it face down on the nightstand as if it could no longer reach me. The next few days blurred together. Physical therapy, long baths, quiet meals in the garden where I watched the koi glide through still water. Every ache in my knee dulled a little more each morning. Every ache in my chest dulled too, but that one I suspected would take longer. By the 5th day, I could put slight weight on my leg with the walker. Maria clapped when she saw. "See progress." "I almost feel human again," I said. She smiled. "Then start living like one." That night, I sat outside near the fountain, the sound of running water soothing and steady. My thoughts drifted toward home, the house that was probably still buzzing with unanswered calls and guilt-drenched texts. Maybe they thought I'd come back crawling. Maybe they thought the silence would scare me into surrendering. They didn't understand I'd already surrendered once for 30 years. I wasn't doing it again. I went inside and opened my laptop. Out of habit, I logged into my home security app. 4 unread alerts from the previous night. Footage played Amanda pacing in my driveway, talking on her phone, Mom standing by the car, shaking her head. Dad was inside the car engine, running headlights on. At one point, Amanda tried the door. The alarm shrieked, and she jumped back. They all looked around nervously before driving off. I watched the video 3 times. Each time, I felt less anger, more certainty. They weren't there out of concern. They were there to make me feel guilty enough to comply. The next morning, during hydrotherapy, Maria asked gently, "Have you talked to them?" "No," I said. "Do you want to?" "Not yet. Maybe not for a while." She nodded. "Then rest easy. Distance isn't cruelty, Amy. Sometimes it's medicine." Her words settled somewhere deep. Distance as medicine, I'd never thought of it that way. 2 weeks later, my last day at the spa arrived. My knee bent almost normally again. I could stand with just one crutch. The driver came early to load my bag, and Maria hugged me tight. "Promise me you'll keep the peace you found here," she said. "I'll try." "No," she corrected. "You'll choose to." The van ride back felt different from the one that brought me there. I wasn't escaping anymore. I was returning as someone else. When we reached my street, my house stood quiet and untouched. Blinds closed a thin layer of dust on the porch, peaceful, almost defiant. I unlocked the door, half expecting chaos, but everything was exactly as I'd left it. I set down my bag, inhaled the familiar scent of home, and exhaled slowly. For the first time in a long time, the space didn't feel heavy with responsibility. It felt like mine. Then the phone buzzed. Not Amanda this time, Rachel. "Hey," she said, cheerful. "How's the knee healing fast? I'm walking with a crutch now. Good, you deserve a medal for not losing it completely." "Oh, I almost did," I admitted. "But instead I just disappeared." Rachel laughed softly. "Sometimes vanishing is the only way people notice the space you used to fill." After we hung up, I stood by the window, watching the evening light settle across my neighborhood. No cars in the driveway, no yelling, no demands. Just quiet. And for once, that quiet wasn't lonely. It was proof. Proof that I could vanish from their chaos, and the world wouldn't end. Proof that peace doesn't ask permission. I'd been home less than 24 hours when the calm cracked. It was early evening, the kind of golden hour that usually softens everything, even regret. I'd just finished a short walk around my living room, testing my balance without the crutch. My knee ached, but the pain was clean now, not suffocating. I'd started to believe maybe the worst was behind me. Then came the sound of 2 cars pulling into my driveway, tires crunching against gravel doors, slamming. The familiar chaos of voices followed. Amanda and my parents. I didn't even need to look. The energy in the air changed sharp and invasive like oxygen turning toxic. A fist banged on the door. Amy. "Open up. We know you're in there." Amanda's voice rang out. I stayed still, watching from the peephole. My sister's hair was a mess, her eyes puffy. Mom and Dad stood behind her, arms crossed. They looked less like a family and more like a jury. Another knock. Louder. "We're not leaving until you talk to us." Fine, I thought. Let's talk. I unlatched the chain, but kept my crutch in hand, more for grounding than balance. "You've got 5 minutes," I said as I opened the door. Amanda stormed in first, her perfume cutting through the stale air. Mom followed, clutching her purse like a shield. Dad moved slower already, sighing, the peacemaker preparing his lines. Amanda didn't waste time. "You owe me $2,000, she snapped. "I lost my vacation deposit because of you." I blinked. "You came here for money. You ruined my trip. You could have just watched the boys for 1 week, but no, you had to make everything about you." Her voice grated against every raw nerve in me. Mom chimed in her tone, heavy with disappointment. "Sweetheart, your sister's had a rough few weeks. The least you can do is help her recover what she lost." Dad nodded along. "It's not about the money, Amy. It's about fairness." Fairness. That word made me laugh, a short, humorless sound. "Sit down," I said, walking toward the living room. "All of you." They exchanged glances, but followed, still convinced they were about to lecture me. I opened my laptop and turned it toward them. The screen glowed with a spreadsheet columns of names, dates, and numbers neatly lined up. Amanda frowned. "What is this?" "My receipts," I said softly, "for the last 5 years." They leaned closer. I watched their faces shift as they read. Rent transfers, school payments, groceries, utilities, car repairs, home repairs, every favor, every rescue, every small loan that never came back. Amanda's voice faltered. "You kept track of all this." "Someone had to." Mom's eyes darted over the numbers, her lips tightening. "This isn't fair, Amy. You can't just—" I interrupted, because for years I didn't say anything. I just kept paying. For all of you. The room went silent except for the faint hum of the fridge. I pointed at the total at the bottom of the page, $103,000. In 5 years, I've given you all over $100,000. Rent, kindergarten, medical bills, repairs, groceries, birthdays, you name it. Amanda's jaw dropped. So what family helps family? When I shot back, when have any of you helped me? Silence again. Mom tried a different tactic. You've always had more than us. You're single, no kids. We just assumed you wanted to help. I wanted to be loved, Mom, I said quietly, but all I ever got was invoices disguised as affection. Amanda slammed her hand against the table. Oh, please, you love playing the martyr. You could have just said no. I tried. I said. Every time I said no, you called me selfish. Every time I hesitated, you cried until I caved. You don't want help, Amanda. You want dependency. There's a difference. Her face flushed. You think you're better than me? No, I said. I think I finally understand you. Mom stood, voice trembling. You can't just cut your family off. Yes, I said, closing the laptop with a soft click. I can. And I already have. Amanda scoffed. You're bluffing. I reached into a drawer and pulled out a stack of printed papers, confirmation emails from the bank. Automatic payments canceled. Kindergarten fees canceled. Your rent canceled. Every single dollar that used to flow from me stops today. The look on her face was pure disbelief, as if I'd told her gravity had stopped working. You can't do this, she whispered. I already did. Mom's eyes filled with tears. You'll regret this one day. I regret every day I didn't do it sooner. Dad finally spoke, voice rough with frustration. Amy, you're angry now, but family. Family doesn't drain you dry and then call you selfish for bleeding. For a moment, no one moved. The tension in the air felt alive like static before a storm. Then Amanda grabbed her purse and stood. You'll come crawling back, she spat. You always do. Not this time, I said. They left in a flurry of slammed doors and accusations muttered under their breath. The house shook as Amanda's car tore out of the driveway. Then silence. The kind of silence that hums through your bones after years of noise. I sat on the couch, breathing deeply. My hands trembled not from fear, but from release. It felt like stepping off a sinking ship and realizing the water could actually hold you. For years, I'd thought love meant rescuing people from themselves. Now I knew love without respect is just manipulation dressed up in family ties. I closed my eyes, exhaled, and whispered to the empty room, I'm done. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. For 3 days, my house was still. The kind of stillness that almost felt holy. No vibrating phone, no guilt-saturated messages, no footsteps other than my own. Just me, my healing knee, and a strange new quiet that was beginning to feel like peace. I'd wake early, open all the blinds, and let sunlight pour through the windows like forgiveness. I move slowly but freely now. Each step a small rebellion against the woman who used to limp through life, weighed down by other people's needs. But peace, I've learned, always has an expiration date. On the 4th morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. For a moment, I thought of ignoring it, but curiosity won. Hello, Amy, it's Stephanie, from the firm. Stephanie was the social services lawyer, whose card I'd given Amanda a last shred of compassion disguised as practicality. I wasn't sure if you wanted updates, she said gently, but I thought you'd want to know. Your sister came to see me. I froze. She what? She was furious at first. Stephanie continued. Accused me of siding with you. But then she listened. Really listened. I helped her apply for benefits, food assistance, housing vouchers, subsidized daycare. She qualifies for all of it. I sank onto the couch, heart pounding. She actually did it. She did, Stephanie said. And she asked about child support. Turns out the father of her oldest son has a decent income. She filed for enforcement. I think she's finally realizing she has to stand on her own. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Part of me felt vindicated. Another part, the part that still remembered her boys' hugs, felt something close to hope. Thank you, I said quietly. Stephanie paused. You know, Amy, sometimes people don't change because you help them. They change because you stop. That line hit me harder than I expected. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, watching the sunlight stretch across my living room. My heart wasn't angry anymore, just tired and oddly proud. A week passed, then another. My knee grew stronger. My limp faded to a soft rhythm. I started walking around the neighborhood again, slow but steady, feeling the kind of independence I'd forgotten I owned. Then one evening, my phone buzzed with a number I almost didn't recognize Mom's. I hesitated before answering. "What is it, Mom?" There was a pause on the line long enough for me to picture her twisting the phone cord the way she always did when she was nervous. "Your sister got a full-time job," she said. "Retail management. 40 hours a week, benefits and everything." I blinked. "Really?" "She also found Tyler's father. He's agreed to pay support $500 a month." "That's good," I said slowly. "It is," Mom admitted. Her voice softened. "Amy, I think we owe you an apology. Well, your father and I realize we took you for granted, expected too much. We thought helping us was just your role. We forgot to see you as a person." I sat in silence, unsure what to say. In 30 years, my mother had never apologized for anything. Not once. She sighed. "We'd like to have dinner. Just the four of us. No money talk, no demands. Just dinner." Every instinct screamed caution. But a small, quiet voice, the one I hadn't listened to in years, said maybe this was the moment to test if things had really changed. 3 nights later, I met them at a small restaurant downtown. Neutral ground. When I arrived, they were already seated. Amanda looked thinner, but calmer. Her hair pulled back neatly, her expression less defensive. Mom smiled when she saw me. Not her usual performative smile, but something genuine, hesitant. Dad stood to hug me. For once, it didn't feel like an act. We ordered. The conversation was awkward at first, the kind of small talk people make when they don't know how to be honest yet. Then slowly the air softened. Dad cleared his throat. "We owe you more than an apology. We owe you a thank you. For what I asked. For cutting us off," he said simply. "It forced us to grow up even at our age." Mom nodded. "You did what we never could. You set boundaries. And we finally realized boundaries aren't rejection. They're respect." Amanda looked down at her plate, then up again. "I've been terrible to you," she said, "but I'm trying now. The boys are in after-school programs. I pay my own rent. It's not easy, but it's mine." Her voice trembled near the end, but not from manipulation this time. It was humility, the kind that only comes when you've fallen flat and stood up again. I looked at her for a long moment. For the first time, I saw not the entitled sister I'd carried, but a woman trying to stand without crutches, the emotional kind, at least. "If we're rebuilding this," I said slowly, "it has to be on my terms." Amanda nodded. "Fair, no more money. Ever. And I'll see the boys when I want to, not when you need a babysitter." "Fair," she repeated, her voice steadier. We ate quietly after that. The conversation shifting to lighter topics, work, the boys' latest school projects, Mom's new interest in gardening. There was laughter, cautious but real. As the check came, Dad reached for it. "I've got this one." I raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" He smiled, a little embarrassed. "Positive." And just like that, something old and heavy in my chest loosened. As we walked out, Amanda hugged me. For the first time in years, without tears or apologies, just a quiet, grateful squeeze. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. "Funny," I said. "I was just thinking the same thing about you." For the first time in a long time, I didn't leave dinner feeling drained. I left feeling lighter. Not healed completely, but human again. And as I walked to my car, leaning slightly on my crutch, I realized something simple but profound. Sometimes peace doesn't arrive with closure. Sometimes it comes disguised as boundaries. And boundaries, I was learning, are just another word for freedom. Months passed. Life settled into something that finally felt like mine. My knee healed completely. No brace, no pain, no hesitation when I climbed stairs or jogged short distances. But the real healing wasn't physical. It was quiet and invisible, tucked somewhere behind the ribs, the kind of recovery that only comes when you stop trying to carry people who were never willing to walk beside you. The calls from my family grew less frequent, but when they came, they were calm. No guilt, no demands, just check-ins. The first time Amanda texted without asking for anything, I actually reread it twice to make sure I hadn't missed a hidden request. Amanda. "Hey. Just wanted to say I got my first full paycheck today. I paid my rent myself. Feels weird, but good." I smiled at the message. Weird, but good. That summed it up for both of us. A few weeks later, she called again, her voice lighter than I remembered. "The boys want to come over Friday night. Pizza and movies." It was her asking, not assuming. That alone felt monumental. I said yes. That Friday, they showed up right at 6. The boys ran in arms open, faces bright. Aunt Amy Tyler shouted. We brought the popcorn. I couldn't help but laugh as they barreled into me. Amanda followed behind, carrying soda and paper plates. She looked different, grounded. The exhaustion in her eyes had been replaced with something steadier, maybe pride. The night was simple pizza cartoons, the boys dozing off halfway through the movie. When Amanda came to pick them up, she smiled. Thanks for this. I used the time to meal prep for the week. Saves money. I grinned. Who are you, and what have you done with my sister? She laughed, shaking her head, trying to be someone my kids can look up to. When she left, the house was quiet again, but this time it wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. Weeks turned into months. My relationship with my parents softened too. Mom joined a senior community book club, a free one this time. Dad started physical therapy through Medicare and finally stopped using his back pain as an excuse for everything. And for the first time in years, when they called, it was to ask about me. How's the knee, honey? Mom would ask. Still strong, I'd reply. Still walking straight. By Thanksgiving, everything felt strangely normal, a new normal I hadn't dared to imagine before. We decided to celebrate at my house that year. Everyone contributed. Amanda brought the turkey, one she'd bought herself. Mom made sides from a tight grocery budget she was proud of. Dad brought store-bought pies and didn't complain once about the expense. As we cleared the table after dinner, Amanda leaned against the counter, dish towel in hand, and said quietly, "Remember last year? When I called you selfish for not watching my kids after your surgery, I looked up. How could I forget?" She gave a small, rueful smile. I was the selfish one. I see that now. Mom nodded, rinsing a bowl. We all were. We treated you like an ATM, not a daughter. Dad turned from the sink, his hands still wet. You saved us, Amy. Not by giving us money, but by stopping. I paused, the words catching somewhere deep. I didn't do it to save you. I did it to save myself. As you should have, Mom said softly. Across the room, Tyler and Danny were playing with Legos, the same set I'd given them the year before when everything had fallen apart. Now the pieces were finally building something whole. A quiet warmth spread through me. For the first time, my home didn't feel like a battlefield or a bank. It felt like family, real, flawed, learning family. Months turned into a year. Amanda stayed consistent, promoted to assistant manager, reliable, proud. She even opened a small savings account for the boys' future, just $20 a month each, but it was something. She'd learned that small steps done alone meant more than giant leaps carried by someone else's back. My parents downsized into a smaller apartment in a senior community. They were happier, healthier, no longer calling me about bills or emergencies. Mom sent me pictures of her garden. Dad sent bad jokes. And me, I rediscovered what it meant to live for myself. I traveled. I saved. I started writing again, small essays about independence and family, about how love can twist into obligation if you're not careful. Sometimes Amanda would come over just for coffee. No crises, no guilt, just silence and steam rising between two sisters who had finally learned to speak without shouting. One evening, as she stood to leave, she hugged me tight. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For saying no to me. It was the best thing you ever did for us." After she left, I stood by the window, watching her car disappear into the quiet street. The night air was cool, soft, forgiving. I thought about how far we'd all come, how something as small as a surgery had fractured everything only to rebuild it stronger. That's the thing about healing. It doesn't start when the wound closes. It starts when you stop reopening it for other people's comfort. Now, 2 years later, my life is unrecognizable from the one I had before. My knee is fine. My family is functional, and my boundaries are carved into stone not as walls, but as lines that define where love can exist safely. Sometimes when I'm out jogging on quiet mornings, I remember that old day, the text messages, the excuses, the loneliness, and I smile. Because the truth is simple, it took a broken knee to find my backbone. And once I stood up for myself, I never sat back down again.